We've made it to another homework assignment, 1.6 part 1. So still under chapter 1, but instead of 1.1 to 1.5, we want to be under 1.6 here. By the time you see this, I'll have a bunch of links to the videos that I've made. Those will all show up here. What you'll see is there's a 1.6 part 1 and a 1.6 part 2. And what you will not see is that there used to be a 1.7, but it'll be hidden from your view. 1.6 part 1 is a fairly short homework assignment. There's only 5 problems in here. I'll add a written problem to kind of make sure that you understand all the important concepts of this. But I think I made it fairly short because in some of these you have to enter data, and I just don't want you doing that a whole bunch of times. I just don't want to waste your time. So in this instance, they give you 23 data points. Sorry, some of them are kind of long. Type these all into a list, and then what it asks you for is median, interquartile range, mean, and standard deviation. All things that we went over in the videos that you've seen. Let's see, mean, we learned in measures of center. Median, we also learned in measures of center. Standard deviation, that came in measures of spread. Those 3 come straight out of your calculator. The only one where you'll have some work to do will be interquartile range, because that won't come directly out of your calculator, but you can get Q1 and Q3 out of your calculator and then apply that formula. Get your answers, type them in here, and you are done. Round your answers to the nearest whole number. These are people, apparently, in this case. Easy enough. Second problem. Kind of like the first one, although there's a couple comments I want to add here. The idea with this problem is you're going to have 2 different data sets. So maybe this goes in L3 and this goes in L4 or something. They're very similar. In fact, there's only one difference. Instead of this being a 9 in the first data set, it moves up to a 20. What this problem has in mind is, oh, this will be super enlightening for students. We'll change the last observation into an outlier, and then the students will see that that doesn't change the median at all because it's resistant to outliers. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe students don't even pay attention to that. The point is, they're going to ask you mean, median, standard deviation, IQR. You're like, the same stuff, right? Kind of. So the interquartile range typically is quoted as one number, the difference between Q1 and Q3. Right? So in this example, it was 5.1. We took the 9 and we subtracted the 3.9, Q3 and Q1 respectively, and we got 5.1. Sometimes, instead of quoting the interquartile range as one number, like 5.1, books will say it's from 3.9 to 9. They'll give you kind of the range of values. Rather than the difference of the two, they'll give you the range. Okay, I don't want this to be confusing. In this class, interquartile range will always be one number like it was in Q1. Right? When I ask you on a test for interquartile range, I'm expecting one number, the difference between Q3 and Q1. However, on this homework problem, and only on this homework problem, rather than subtract those two numbers, you'll put in Q1 right here in the first box, and then Q3 right here in the second box. And those numbers will both come straight out of your calculator. And if you want, pretend it doesn't ask you for the IQR. Pretend it says, tell me Q1 and Q3 and put those in the next 2 boxes. Right, just pretend that's what it says. That's what they're asking for. That'll get you through this problem. Third problem, more of the same. They give you 6 observations. The only things that are different here is now they add mode and range, the 2 measures, one of spread, one of center, that I told you don't worry about a whole lot. Maybe I said I think they might show up in one homework problem and then never again. This is that one homework problem. They ask you for the mode, they ask you for the range, and don't expect to ever be asked for either of those ever again. Question 4, pay attention, please. This one I get a bunch of emails from because it's tricky. You're like, oh, an observation is considered an outlier if it. I recognize this. This is those fences, right? All it wants is, I guess this would be the lower fence here and the upper fence here. And I'm really good at this stuff. Let me show you how much I know. I'll put this into a list, figure out Q1, figure out Q3, the interquartile range, and I'll use the formulas from the last video that showed me how to come up with the upper and lower fences. Yes and no. Be careful here. That's the idea. You do want the lower fence here and the upper fence here, and you are going to calculate those by using those formulas that I gave you that involve Q1 and the interquartile range and the number 1.5. However, this is not data. I know it looks like data, but it's not data. If you go through and read the problem, it doesn't say, here are our 5 observations. It says, here is a 5-number summary. There's some data somewhere else that you never get to see. Pretend there's 50 observations off to the side. And you don't even see these. This is somebody else already summarizing the data for you. They're giving you a 5-number summary. So now you got to think back and be like, 5-number summary. Which one was that? Oh, right. They're telling me the minimum Q1, the median Q3, and the maximum. Right? That's what those 5 numbers signify. This is not a set of data. this is a 5-number summary. And maybe from this 5-number summary, you could figure out the lower fence and the upper fence. So that one's a little bit tricky. Just be careful on that one. Question number 5, the last one on the homework. Z-score. It's just like what you did. To figure out the z-score, you always need to know an observation. There it is. The mean. There it is. And the standard deviation. There it is. And then you put all those into a formula, one that looks a lot like this, where you subtract the mean from the observation, then divide that answer by the standard deviation. You get your answer and you put it in right here. Note it asks you to round it to 2 decimal places. So I guess you might as well go ahead and do that. Make sure that it's this entire thing divided by the standard deviation. Make sure that you don't do the observation minus and then just divide these two numbers. Be careful with your order of operations, I guess is what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe go back and find that in the video where we talked about that. But that's it. Those are the 5 problems you'll do from 1.6 part 1. That's his homework assignment. So I guess that's where I'll stop the video.